Hi there, I'm Jay, and I'm with Professor Michael Nagler from the Metta Center for Nonviolence in Berkeley, California. This video is intended for all those engaged in the nonviolent struggle in Iran. We first want to express our solidarity with you and your movement and your people, and congratulate you on the struggle so far, and on choosing nonviolence and really sticking to it. We do want to encourage you to really avoid violence at all costs, and don't seek out suffering, but know that that may be part of your struggle, and yeah.
I would completely agree with what Jay just said. Don't seek suffering, but know that if it comes to you, that it is often part of the very success of a nonviolent movement. And Martin Luther King Jr. even said, unearned suffering is redemptive. We know that this resonates very well with people in the Islamic lands. So what Jay and I mainly want to stress for you here today is that you use the wonderful spirit that you've developed in this struggle for a permanent success. Because based on our long experience with many nonviolent movements around the world, there can be a very strong outpouring of popular support. Millions of people can come together, and then either you win or you lose, and in either case that effervescence, that spirit, that emotion can be lost, it can be dissipated. So what do you have to do to make sure that you have the momentum to carry on? Because really, to change a country, to change a culture, to put a country on a different path is a struggle that's going to take years. It took more than 35 years for Mahatma Gandhi to get freedom for India, but he did it in the right way, and so the results were permanent. So here's what we'd like to recommend. First of all, try to form groups so that you can stay together. Solidarity networks like well, they call them the caracoles in Mexico, the snails, or the affinity groups, as they've been called for many years. Get in touch with one another and try to form local connections so that you can stay together. That's very important. You can support one another when arrested. You can stay in touch when the momentum of the movement maybe goes down. In this connection, your use of the internet has been absolutely brilliant. It's marking out a new era in nonviolent struggles around the world, but I would urge you not to depend on it. Don't ever depend on technology, because technology can go down. Try as much as possible to build up personal connections, one-to-one networks. Okay. The next thing I would suggest is, this is probably the most important thing of all, you definitely need to be coming up with a strategy. Getting out on the streets and protesting is step number one. But what is step number two? What is step number three? Well, all of that depends on the results of your actions. So you should have contingency plans. If the election is annulled and you have a new opportunity, how are you going to use it? If the election is not annulled and the incumbent seeks to stay in power, what are you going to go on to from there? It's not necessarily escalating the protest. Perhaps it means getting more organized, creating services for yourselves that the state may not provide for you. In other words, there's constructive ways and there's obstructive ways, but you definitely need to chalk out some kind of strategy to keep moving, regardless of what the immediate results are. And in this connection, I think it would be a good idea to come up with a long-range plan. What do you want? We have a saying here at the Metta Center that the future will depend not so much on having a different kind of people in power, but a different kind of power in people. How are you going to train people to acquire that nonviolent spirit and that courage and that endurance that millions of you have been showing the whole world in this struggle? So, but when you're doing a long-range plan, there is one precaution you need to follow, and that's to avoid what they call a fresh issue. In other words, right now you're struggling for a fair election. You want your vote to count, and the whole world is behind you on that. If you succeed, don't use that as an open door to make a whole long list of demands. Take it one step at a time. Once you've got the new election and you've got a new regime, use the networks that you have formed during the struggle to come up with a plan how you would like Iran to be in the future. Set about convincing your friends and neighbors and lawmakers and religious authorities that this is the future that you all want for your country. But don't make that part of a list of demands that you're giving the government right now. And so finally, I guess we would say that there are many places that are putting information and suggestions for you up on the web. One version of this video will be listing some of them. But we would leave you with this final thought that Jay and I came up with. If you win, don't exult. Triumphalism can lose you everything that you've gained. If you lose, don't despair. Because to the extent that you are nonviolent throughout this struggle, you cannot lose. Thank you, and God bless you, and may your struggle survive and go forward, and may you have minimum amount of suffering in the course of doing this great act.